Thank you all for being here. Thanks to everybody out there in internet land, and especially to folks sitting here in which part of Launchpad are you sitting in?
We're right by the bar in the
Oh,
like
you're right
front
by the bar in Launchpad,
front
perfect
DJ
place to talk
stage.
about music festival. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Basically, welcome to folks who don't know what's happening, who haven't been to some of the other panels throughout the week. This is Creative Industries Week, sort of an experimental first go to celebrate and think about how to launch the Creative Industries Division, which is a new division of the State Economic Development Department. My name is Mike, and I work for an organization called Creative Startups. And along with the Poe Cultural Center and Vital Spaces, we are crafting a strategic plan for this new division, which is designed to support people making a living in the creative economy. So that includes, obviously, music and performance, and all the things that we here in this room care so much about. And the division is starting pretty modestly. Um, in next fiscal year, it's going to have a budget. It's going to have 2 full-time staff members and a grant budget of $250,000. And the goal is to think about how can we grow that? How can we grow support for creatives across New Mexico, especially for creatives who are trying to make a living, who are in this sort of small business entrepreneurial space? Um, and how can we make it so in a state that is so creative, where 1 in 9 people make at least part of their living in the creative economy, more people can make more of their living in the creative economy. So very excited to be joined here today. And I think, yeah, we're just going to try and keep it real casual and really talk shop, like Barney said, about how can we grow this festival? What kind of support, what kind of agreements, what kind of support from the state, from the city is needed to really blow this up and make it happen. So let's go around. We got people in a row here, so maybe let's start with Barney, who's been sort of my co-conspirator in all this and bringing everybody together. So let's just introduce yourself as you go around the line and say who you are and sort of the one big thing you think needs to be talked about in order to sort of form a working group to build toward a festival like this.
Cool. So I'm Barney Lopez. I work here at Launchpad, and also help out with affiliated venues with doing booking with Joe Anderson. On top of that, I play in a local band, Red Light Cameras, which has been playing in Albuquerque for almost 15 years. I also, for the past over 15 years, I've been with Blackout Theater Company, which is a theater production company that does all kinds of different types of productions, ranging from we've done haunted houses to children's theater to musicals to film, video, all kinds of stuff. So I've kind of been around the creative industry my entire life. Uh, uh, and I feel like, I guess your answer to your question, the thing I think that we need the most is like community buy-in, and then buy-in from all of the parties. So like kind of I like to think of the like rising tides raise all boats metaphor, where like if everybody's, a win for everybody is going to just lift us all up. And so I'm hoping that if we can figure out a way to collaborate on something together, that it could potentially grow into something really big.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Barney, and thank you for helping put this together.
Yep.
Carlos, welcome. Thank you for being here, man.
Carlos Medina. I've been a musician for 45 years now. Comedian, an actor, and worked with Miaolo, worked with the Suke Casino. I'm the chairman of the Music Commission for the governor. And I've been putting together shows pretty much 20+ years now. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Music Commission can do to help create a festival like this. I think maybe a location festival would be good because our state is so big and the genres and styles of music are so diverse from, Taos to Las Cruces. I think New Mexico absolutely has a hidden gem in what we call New Mexico music, which is Spanish Northern New Mexico music. It's very unique. I kind of liken it to the music, Zydeco music in Louisiana,
Yeah, very much.
or another. Someone was telling me like up in the Smoky Mountains where you have like just this real hollering, I think is what they call it. New Mexico music is pretty unique. It's not really Mexican. It's not Tejano. It's its very own unique style. And I think that together with everything else we hear in the state, as a music commission, we try and be as diverse as possible. We know that there's mariachi as well as there's classical. There's native musicians. It runs the gamut from jazz to classical to northern New Mexico to reggae. And I just think a collaborative effort to put an event like this together that would maybe cover 4 quadrants of the state would be a great idea. I know how difficult it is to put together one event.
One
And here we are
show,
talking about
yeah.
4, but it is possible, and I think in a state as big as ours, that's something that we should at least consider and maybe aim for as the show starts happening, and progression to that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, he's here for the hang out.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah, just grab a seat and can listen in, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Carlos. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really cool to be that ambitious and sort of set that long-term goal is really smart. Yeah.
That makes me think about, if I can jump in, if you want to finish.
Of course. No, let's go around and then let's come back just so everybody gets to sort of introduce themselves first. Yeah.
Well, my name is Roman. I work here at Launchpad too, and also with affiliated venues. Been part of the music scene now for almost 30 years. I've been booking shows for probably like 25 back from in Berlin days to here, because I'm from Mount Airy usually, normally, and just working my way up to here to Albuquerque to the scene, and playing a lot of bands around town, and just I've been part of Monolith on the Mesa and the Burque Rock City Fest. What's really cool what he brought up was the culture of New Mexico, and I think the rest of the world honestly is really interested in New Mexico, the mysteriousness and the culture and the history of it. And I think it draws people from everywhere here, because I remember doing Monolith and it brought people from all over the United States and the world, and they
Sick.
love the landscape. They love just the environment and the feel of New Mexico. And I think New Mexico really needs to, well, I mean, New Mexico does have festivals and stuff, but we do really need to put like a big one, like a multi-piece, like a Four Corner, like you said, like a CHAVEZ, like Las Cruces, New Mexico. Because there's a lot of like really cool venues and a lot of really good promoters and musicians and people all over the state that are really excited about their scene and working together to build something for New Mexico.
Totally.
And we do have potential, because there's a lot of bands are starting to come to New Mexico more, and just it's a cool place with a lot of potential. And I think all of us working together, like Barney said, from the DIY to to the big time, all of us working together can make it happen.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it makes me think about like when I was traveling for this project, doing research and like going out to Farmington and like meeting like Chuck Haven out in Farmington, and he was talking about that and like just like the metal scene up there, and just like figuring. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I guess that's a something we can sort of dive into because there's sort of like just these unsolvable issues of miles and miles in geography, right? And like, but it's really cool to yeah think about how to connect everybody in the state. I mean, it's cool that you guys are already. I mean, I was thinking just Albuquerque, so it's cool that you guys are already talking about the whole state. Yeah. So thank you so much for Roman for being here. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting. I really appreciate it. Thanks again, Barney, too.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, this is Buddy Abeta. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Music Commission, serve with Carlos. I also do Arts and Humanities for U.S. Senator Ben Ray Lujan. So I do policy around music and television, movies, and for museums and things like that. I also liaison on the Arts Commission, so I'm kind of sit in with them every now and then. And I think using the uniqueness of New Mexico is really important. Any festival that's been successful in the country, they've used the local landscape to make it successful. New Mexico has unique things like acequias and things that other places don't have. We need to really harness into that to figure a way to make something very, very unique, because a lot of festivals everyone has a festival, but how do we make it in New Mexico where one, you have a buy-in from all of the local people, like the state, local cities that you're going to put these on, and then federal money, and then also private, money to collaborate to, because it really just comes down to dollars and sponsorships. But the way that you kind of get things going is that you have buy-in from local electeds. So that's someone like me could be very useful in that arena. So yeah.
Totally. No, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. And I really appreciate you saying that and appreciate you being here. And I think that's really cool to see that like representation and yeah, interest. Yeah, like passion about it. And it totally makes sense that the physical landscape is, and you mentioned that too, Roman, like that's like when people come out here, it's like the mystery, however you like describe it, like that's what people.
They love Taos because the river was running, the gorge, the mountains. They go horseback riding. They wanted to go eat at a local mom and pop restaurant. They loved it.
Sick.
People
Yeah.
from all over the world. It was really cool.
Yeah. Cool. I'm not much louder than everyone else with the speaker, right?
You're
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't want to be like boomingly loud.
I can go down a couple.
Okay. Yeah. I want to be like at the same level as everyone else. So it seems
All
like
right.
I'm a real person.
We'll get the
Yeah.
mastering engineer in here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, buddy. Yeah, thank you very much for being here, and helping us sort of think through kicking this off. And then we've also got Daniel here. Thank you very much for coming here, Daniel, and representing Revel. And yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, first off, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. I think it's great to have everybody in the same room talking about the same subjects. And I've been in the music business for 40 years. And yes, I do own Revel Entertainment, created it out of an old Sports Authority store. So repurpose the building and make it work. I am not the enemy. Joe Anderson and I all have had a good working relationship. I also own a company called NRG Staging, which is a concert production rigging staging company that operates in multiple states. I've been involved with festivals and on grand scales, it's ACL, South by. We do work at Zicker Park in Austin. We do work at Tempe Town Lake. And I think that Albuquerque was primed or is primed for a festival. I think we need to focus probably, I really respectfully everybody's opinion and how we would do this if we were able to collectively get together. I think it's great that we're all sitting in the same room. I had made a pitch to the city to try to use the Bloom Festa Park, and oddly enough, an outsider comes in and does it with a group called Boots in the Park, and they had a little bit of mishaps, and I think they're a greedy outside company that Albuquerque should be able to stop that from happening. I've been involved with Edge Fest since the very first one. That was probably most of you weren't even born then, but it was at the side of the
I was there.
Sunshine. We did it, and I can't even think it was a Butthole Surfers, and I don't remember who else. So I have been involved with the festivals as big as they've gotten. You know, we've never really had the traction that we needed to make it a national event, if you will. It's always been a local event with, although we've had, you know, when we took it to the fairgrounds, and then we, you know, the Big I 4th of July did a big festival, the Tri-294 Rock. So I've been around it 40 years, and I've seen certain things that work really well and certain things that don't. I think geographically, I think we would start in the center, the hub of New Mexico, which is Albuquerque, and then pull everybody together. And as it grows, expand outward, because I really do like the idea of Taos and, you know, I mean, you got all that community. And again, as Carlos was saying, Northern New Mexico music with the Blue Ventures and 45 and these bands, these guys are all legitimate entertainers. And I would really love to see somehow incorporate that into a festival here in Albuquerque. And again, collectively, we are stronger than we are individually. So I'm happy to be here. If I can contribute anything to this, I'm happy to do so. I am also in the film industry, and I really love that part of it. I'm in the process right now. I've purchased some land in the South Valley, and I hope to be building a couple of sound stages within the next 6
awesome.
months to it. So, yeah.
Cool.
But that's my
Sick. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, thank you so much for being here, Daniel. And yeah, thanks for, I think we'll definitely, I think want to learn more about in those 40 years, like what you've seen work and what hasn't worked, you know? So I think let's definitely dive into that. And then, yeah, so Barney's turning the camera. And so I guess we're just going to keep going here in the circle and just introducing ourselves. Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mike, I'm Joe Smith. I go by Stringer online just to, you know, distinguish from the other million Joe Smiths that are out there.
Sure.
I started writing about music here in Albuquerque about a year ago, and I covered it for about a year straight. Taos, mostly Albuquerque, a little bit of Santa Fe, South Valley. So I have a lot of show experience in 1 year in New Mexico. And
Totally.
everything they touched on, I concur with, I agree with. But Daniel made a point that we ran into up in Alaska, and whatever you do, the money just has to stay here, and the money has to go to the artists.
Yeah.
Right.
Artists. So that's my vote.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. And so it's like you were saying, Daniel, about the outside company with the Balloon Fiesta Park, and it sort of fizzled. Yeah, that resonates. I mean, I think that
I want to clarify and include the infrastructure, the staff. I get that. That has to be paid for. But whatever offshoot you guys decide to do needs to be fair to the artist and also the patron, because I'm one of the patrons.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about that as we go and talk about like what that means and what that looks like and how to make it work. And I think it's good that we've got like a good mix of like public and private folks here, like Carlos and Buddy from the Music Commission and Buddy from everything else you do. Yeah. And so I think we can really sort of workshop this. So yeah, I appreciate you being here and saying that. Awesome. Good to meet you.
My name's Jeff. I've been here for about 20 years. I came from Iowa, where I ran a bar that I incorporated music into it. Started bringing in Western Iowa, ska, blues, rock, different stuff that we didn't have up there. And then other people got involved with a little more connections, which there's definitely more infrastructure here than what I had when we started. A thing called Saturday in the Park, which is now like 20,000 people plus.
Oh, wow.
And we were, you know, I was pulling cable, I was rigging lights, and it was just like this. It was like a core of really enthusiastic people. But down here, there is a ton of resources, just the amount of talent and people that have a passion for it. But I also agree with it needs to start in Albuquerque. It needs to be a New Mexico thing. Without a doubt, to get bigger, it will have to have outside influence, but it is something that definitely can happen here with a group of people that have this much experience.
And we
I
can
haven't been
bring
in it for a while.
I'm sorry. We could bring a lot of outside state money in for us too. perhaps one thing too, because a lot of these festivals bring people from outside.
Yes.
But what I've been trying to figure out is how to get support from local, because there's a lot of support from outside. If we do the right lineups and do all the right things, so we got to get people, like you said, from Albuquerque. We need to build it in here to get, and the end reward would be awesome, because we'll get a lot more money from the outside and start building the state bigger.
Yeah.
Start getting eyes on their state, start bringing more tourists here, more of a lot of things that will help the state in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's super key. I think like in the context of a government division, or specifically an economic development department division, you look at the success of the outdoor rec division, which some of y'all might know about or have seen, and they've done really well, and they do that exactly what y'all are both saying. Like they leverage money basically from big corporations to support these programs like REI and the North Face. And that, I think that the creative industries division, when it gets rolling, that's going to be a big, important part of their job, is to be making those calls and to be sort of representing, and to be working with like the New Mexico Music Commission to say, here, we're like the state folks, right? And it's going to make it easier to take, you're going to be more likely if you're like a huge corporation to take that call than, you know, if any individual. But so do we have anybody else in the circle to turn the laptop in, or
I
should
think
we
that's
just
it.
sort of
Yeah.
cool? I kind of want to dive right into because I think these are all great ideas, and I think let's workshop it. Maybe a good place to start is, I would love to hear Daniel on just, it sounded like you had a pretty clear bullet point in your head of maybe of like what worked and what didn't. And if you could just sort of roll through some of those, because I want to talk about that. And I also want to think about like what, yeah, like what already exists, who else needs to be brought in, all of that. But let's start with just maybe the like what hasn't worked and what has,
Yeah,
you know?
I'll be happy to jump in there. I would say first and foremost, consumer, who's gonna buy tickets, who's gonna be there, who's gonna be our audience, whatever genre it is, Mexican, New Mexican, country, whatever it is, if it's gonna be a multi-genre festival, which I really like the idea. Number two, how many days? Is it gonna be a 1-day event, a 2-day event, 3-day event? I really, really think Albuquerque is prime for this. I've seen other cities. I think Albuquerque is prime for it. Consumer, who's going to buy the tickets is the most important thing. The revenue stream that's coming in, and then to be fair to the customers, right? You can't charge parking $50 and it's the only parking spot around. You've got to be very fair to the consumer, and you're going to get more sponsorship by doing that. And we could offset some of the costs of, doing the festival by bringing in the major sponsors. I think that the next big thing was where would you be able to put this, right? The Balloon Fiesta Park is gorgeous. It is one of the nicest facilities in any place that I've ever seen for a festival. I would not want to see customers have to go sit in a dirt lot somewhere. I think consumers are way more sophisticated. Festival goers are way more sophisticated. Maybe the Polo Grounds in Santa Fe would be another opportunity, or I don't know what's happening with the Downs of Santa Fe, but I know that it would have to be in a great location where people would feel super comfortable and they're not going to be sitting on asphalt. And again, back in the day, we did Edge Fest at the state fairgrounds. We did it at the side of the launch pad. But I would, and the problem with the Balloon Fiesta Park is a lady by the name of Susan Rice, and I don't know how many of you have ever dealt with her. She's part of the city, and I'm not bashing her. She does her job, she does it well. But when you have a dB level of 50 dBs at the edge of the fence line, that's like what we're talking about right now. It's not, and I do talk loud, by the way. But it is stifling to try to put a festival on and not get the city backing. And we went all the way up to the mayor's office, and the mayor stopped it in its tracks. And although the mayor comes to every metal show, I'm sure with you guys too, he's not really an advocate for what I'm trying to do. And it really does disappoint me. So again, those are the topic, that's where we would have to start, right? Where would we put this thing and make it work? Because again, it would be great if we put it in the field across the street. But, you know, if you can get away with that for some, but I think that we really need to treat the consumer properly. And that would be putting them in a grass field with a mega stage, with a, you know, if we really wanted to grow this, because my goal was to bring like a Bon Jovi, and I'm talking old school shit like AC/DC, Bon Jovi. But if it was gonna go the country route, because Boots in the Park did beat us, and again, I hated to see all that money go right out of the state. They
Right.
cheapened what they did. They tried to buy my liquor license for damn near nothing, and I was insulted by what they did to us. So to have all of us sitting in a room here together that collectively work together, and where none of us are gonna be greedy pigs to try to see that happen, we're more in tune with what we can make happen with the music industry, and that's what my goal is. I love music. I admire people who play music. Carlos, you know, anybody who plays an instrument, and that's awesome, because I wish I did. I unfortunately ended up behind the scenes, but I'm very grateful for them too. And I'll start off with that, and then we can just branch off and talk about that.
Yeah, I guess a thing that I thought too, so like, I think there's a couple ways to go about a festival, right? We could go about a festival where it's like one big location, like a field, and we have like a lot, like you can maybe fit like 2 stages on there and kind of go back and forth between the two. But I also am kind of intrigued by a festival kind of more in the way that like South by Southwest does, right? Which is difficult, right? Because what South by is a lot of disorganized, not connected festivals all happening at the same time.
Bound in
And
time,
so-
yeah.
And so, and it's at all these different venues, right? So instead of having like one centralized location, maybe having a place where you can go, like using downtown Albuquerque in the way that they used to do the spring and the fall crawls, might be a model that could work to have it centralized, but then be indoors and have the sound systems that are already there, maybe having to put some sound systems in certain places that aren't up to where they need to be, and maybe some outside stages to mix in, but like growing from there. I think that's another option of a way to go about it. But obviously it would take buy-in from all the different places down, you know, if you were doing downtown, it would be, you've got like the 3 venues here, you've got Red Door, Sister, the Chemo, you've got Sunshine, Moonlight.
And even spots that don't have a stage or anything, that don't normally do shows, be like, hey, you wanna be part of it, make those, just move those tables, make a little stage right there. and be
Yeah.
Part of it, to help make money for them that day, you know?
Yeah, but then like obviously there's so many difficulties in that, right? Like how do you sell? Is everybody selling a wristband for the same price? Or some venues selling like individual tickets? Or like there's obviously like a lot of
That'll always be that,
complications.
but we could probably get that all set up.
Yeah, yeah. And then the
I
other
would
thing
just
too- just
throw
real-
in, oh, sorry, go ahead, Barney, yeah.
The other thing too is that like what South by has going on is they have other festivals, right? There's South by Southwest, which is the main festival that happens, but then everybody has their own like other festival,
Mini fest.
Mini Fest, Red Gorilla Fest, this fest, you know.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of feels like this past week in Albuquerque had that vibe kind of like going on, because you had your fest on Sunday. And then we have the Bueno Fest today. And then this weekend over at Rensden is the
Yeah.
Black and Death Fest. And each fest is kind of its own like scene and genre wise. But that feels like it's along the line, like, man, if we had all like thought of it and like worked together from the very beginning, we could have like advertised all these festivals together and then maybe made it like a bigger week-long
Had a
thing.
pass for all of them.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Let me ask Carlos, like, well, first, let me say, I mean, one thing that I've noticed in all the people that I've met across New Mexico, or even in talking this week, is that kind of collaboration idea people tend to like brighten up about it when it's tied to sort of things that feel very like New Mexico in their culture. Like I'm thinking about the acequia system, right? Like New Mexico already has across the state, baked into the culture of New Mexico, this model of collaboration and collective ownership that doesn't, like when I went down to Portales and I met some folks from like this place called Uncle Mike's in Portales, and it's a cool spot. It's sort of older dudes. They collectively own the venue. They collectively own the equipment. And I was there with my colleague and friend Rashawn, and we were like, "Oh, you guys have a DIY collective," and they were like, "Well, we wouldn't use that fancy like Santa Fe word, right?" But and then when we were like, well, all we mean by that is it's sort of like an acequia, like, oh yeah, well, if we think about it that way, then we're more into it, you know? And so that's just sort of an idea. But I also want to ask Carlos, from your travels across the state, and you are also the first one who brought up this idea of statewide, right? Like if we imagine it in a practical term, it sounds like people are talking about centralizing in Albuquerque. How can we bake in from the beginning, in addition to the idea that growth expands outward, right? How can we bake in the idea of bringing people across the state to Albuquerque to sort of represent the music of New Mexico? And then it's like maybe there's one place where it's all happening across a certain amount of time, but it's not just the people of one city. Does that make sense?
Well, I think one it's coincidence, but Route 66 is huge and we're celebrating 100 years of it. So incorporating that into any fest would certainly attract people, not just from the state, but all over the country, because the governor and I think the feds are putting a lot of money into that celebration, right?
I'm not aware of federal funds going, but it would be money that would go to the state and then the state would allocate it.
Yeah.
But, and those are things too from that you can do grant searches for, even just through our office. You'd be surprised of the money that's out there on a federal level that people have no clue that it exists. You can apply, you can just come to our office and we can do a free grant search for any of these projects, you know, and if there's money, then you would have a chance to get it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Route 66 would certainly be.
I like
yeah.
that. I like.
Another.
That's 2026, by the way, the 100-year
Yeah,
anniversary. Yeah, 2026. Yeah.
Whatever festival, if you have it, if it's 2 days, then you're automatically eligible for what's lodger's tax, occupancy tax. I'm on the OTAB for Santa Fe, so we're the advisory board. How that tax gets, so it's tax that's levied on every hotel and every short-term rental pays I think it's like 6% tax, and that goes to a fund. The purpose of that fund is to promote events that bring people and put heads in beds.
Right.
So if you have a 2-day festival, then now you can go to any city that's gonna be affected by this and say, look, we wanna apply, and most of them have a grant, they have like a tiered grant system where you come and you kind of state your case, and I wanna do X and Y this. We're expecting 100,000 people in 2 days. We're expecting the impact to be, 50,000 rent, room nights. And then the cities would help you with promotion, and there's executive and promotional side. So that's something to consider when you are considering a festival. If it's at least 2 days, then you're able to leverage that.
Can I add to Carlos that, like, just to plug the music commission a little bit, because we've dumped already almost $120,000 into the music economy of New Mexico, just trying to find the most where we can help the most local musicians as we can. It's our mission to help locals, but something like this, it wouldn't hold us back from the music commission from, say, having a music commission stage that we sponsor, and
Right.
we'd be happy to look into that and try to bring funds.
That's a great idea.
Something like that, so we are actually a pretty useful commission.
Well, we've become useful prior to this, to us being on it. The commission never had a budget.
Right.
So Buddy and I and the rest of the commission were able to get a budget last year for the first time ever. And it wasn't a lot of money, but we leveraged it by reaching out to other organizations and showing them that if we work together, we can take our $100,000 and make it 300. And the caveat was that the money goes to local musicians. So I don't care if you're bringing Bon Jovi, but maybe you get red light camera to open.
Opening,
Yes.
Because,
That's
because
the
now
deal.
our money, the music commission money, except for that, these guys wouldn't have been able to play because whatever the festival was, all the money was going to the headliner. Well, now we're making it possible for maybe not just red light cameras, but Prison Bitch or whatever other like genre bands, or shit, if you want a mariachi to open it for Bon Jovi, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll just add one other thing, and I'm sorry for taking up so much time. The other thing that we think about when you're dealing with like federal government or state government, you always approach this kind of stuff like you're a job creator. For what
Right.
you do, like you do the company that does rigging, you guys do lighting, sound. If the music commission would be so happy to partner with you if we're training high school kids how to do that work. We're doing paid internships because we need to model the music industry after the film industry. The film
Right.
industry is highly subsidized.
And they know the keywords. to
And
say.
right, but the
What was
key
that?
word is, I'm a job creator.
Yes.
Like in the music industry, we need to start thinking that way. I just had this weekend. Rafa Sardina was with me up in Santa Fe. He's a 20-time Grammy-winning record producer. We started chatting about the differences between, even in LA, of music and film. And he said the music industry is really good at the art of music and really bad at the money side.
Oh, yeah.
And film is really good at the money side, but not, they kind of lack on the art side.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you
and-
know, we
and
have a
yeah,
lot,
just
both have a
to
lot learn.
piggyback
Oh,
off of
I'll
what-
leave it at, yeah.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Buddy is saying there, speaking of keywords, Barney, there's also the idea of transferable skills, right?
Yeah.
So you're learning trade skills for which there is money through the Department of Workforce Solutions, apprenticeship money. You're learning these trade skills in creative environments, so it's sort of a win-win for everybody. And if you can show that there are these transferable skills, you're creating jobs, that makes a lot of sense in that language. And it also, there's an organization that does something called a music census out of Austin. It's some folks who were instrumental in starting South by, and they go into cities and basically talk to all the musicians in order to produce this data that you can then give legislators and show like, oh, wow, like look at everything that's happening. And so whether it's that organization or whether it's an internal effort, whether it's New Mexicans, right? Like, which would be even better, like speaking that language of data and taking control of that data, like for leaders. We had a hand get raised that turned into, it looks like we've just got some shout outs for particular places here in the chat. We've got, and maybe this is just some things. I think one thing that's obviously clear is that, there's a lot of knowledge maybe in people's heads, but maybe making that more public. So we've got like shout out to Red Horse B&B, Rio Bravo Brewing, Volt Studios, just making lists of potential collaborators. Let me ask, go for it, Barney.
Yeah, I gotta think, just kind of tapping back to what you had mentioned earlier about how do I phrase this? So there's the idea that we do a festival, right? And we want it to be like local, like showcasing the locals, but we also need to draw the ticket sales, right? We gotta like, how do you get butts in seats, right? And and so like, do we need headliners? Do we need to get Bon Jovi? Do we need to like get some big thing or which I'm not saying one way or the other actually at all. Because I know like this sampler fest that we're doing today is just locals, right? It's just local bands and that has its certain draw for sure. But just wondering people's ideas about like, do you need to have a big headliner to make it a festival?
That's how wide scale you want it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, and in my opinion on that Ozfest,
Yeah.
Mayhem, what's the other ones? There's been a ton that have come through. Live Nation has that lock hold, if you will,
Yeah.
on attracting those type of shows, right? Would you ever be able to compete with that? I think yes. I think there's a possibility. I think whoever could bring in that type of, you would have to have like an A-list talent, right? That's what made, you know, when we had Sugar Ray and some of these bands way back when we were doing the Edge Fest, right? We were getting the bands that were, you know, Seven Dust and all the, yeah, you know,
Yeah,
we were getting
on the
some great
radio-
bands,
radio
you know,
type
and
stuff.
all these other bands. But what my thoughts are is if you were gonna do something like that, you would have to have an anchor, right? You've got to find that anchor that's gonna be able to bring people in. I think that's what Boots in the Park was able to accomplish with the whatever Red, Thomas Red. So that being said, then you do a local band stage, right? You have your local band stage. It's going to bring in people and it's going to give them the opportunity and a reason that people come out to listen to their favorite bands, Red Light Cameras, whoever, and give them an opportunity to make some money and to be a part of a festival. And then you continually build both sides of that. You're gonna have to build the national touring band that's got a big draw along with the locals. And again, the South by, I just want to end it with South by works. I started doing South by in 2010. It was the very first one. And you're right, they put stages in every nook and cranny in Austin. They start at 7 in the morning. They have margarita, or they have mimosa breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
and with,
I've played some of those brunch
with,
ones.
you know, any of the bands, but it's become a draw because of what it is. So I think in order to build that name, you're gonna first have to, you know, come up with a concept. And I do love the concept of doing the South by because I think that works, especially in downtown. But then again, you know, we've also have to hear the stories of downtown. Why is this not working? So I love every idea that everybody's throwing around, and I'm totally interested to see.
Let me follow up on that because a few people brought up this idea of the natural landscape of New Mexico, which I think is really compelling. And then Albuquerque is the city in New Mexico. There's Las Cruces and Albuquerque are the two, you know, big cities in the north and the south part of the state, right? To be reductive about it. There's many other, but you know what I'm saying, population size wise. Is there any way to combine those ideas of like people come to New Mexico for the mystery, for the beauty, with Albuquerque is the urban heart of New Mexico and the best practically, like in a practical sense, place for this to start? That's maybe kind of a hard question. But
it made me think of, so when you were saying earlier, like, it would be cool if the festival could be at like different parts of the state. Like, I almost wonder if the model that Albuquerque does for its Summerfest might work on a state level, right? Because right now what Albuquerque does for Summerfest is they go Northeast Heights Summerfest one month, the next month it's downtown, the next month it's over here. And so I wonder if a festival could be made where it's like 1 week or 1 weekend, it's in Albuquerque, and then it jumps over to Farmington, and then it jumps down to Cruces, and then maybe it jumps over to like Tucumcari or you know what, another quadrant, right? And then maybe we can like get the local bands to play at all of them, and so then you can kind of like move these bands around the state and regional too. Yeah, like try and bring in the bands from like Farmington, like Mommy Filters,
Or even
like,
on the reservation, just right there.
yeah, all those like bands on the
They
reservation.
have big festivals there,
that could be a cool thing to pursue, like a private partnership sort of sponsoring.
Oh, it's crazy.
And they had more than we did.
I was gonna say, you had it.
I can't believe they're playing at the amphitheater now. That's beyond me, but.
So
Sorry to say, but I gotta split, because I gotta make the banks and everything for the show. But thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
But-
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
If-
Yeah,
if we
let's
collectively come to an agreement to maybe have another visit. It doesn't have to be, I think it can be, we can make it anywhere you want. It can be here again, but I would like to continue these talks before anybody splits off, so I have to leave in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I would love to pass out cards and at least have contact information if somebody wants to share that via email, and that way we have everybody. I think we already do. This was way more productive than I even imagined it would be, so I really have.
Yeah, no, I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, it looks like we've
Oh,
also
let me get
got
those.
so see you, Roman.
Here,
And
I
so
gotta grab
as
something.
we're-
I'll be right.
Okay, yes. So let's hang out for a second here for the folks in the chat. And I know that Barney is trying to kick off Bueno Fest. I think you're totally right, Daniel, about continuing this, you know, and I think that I think that we got some folks in the chat who are interested too, like Jan Tompkins Jackson is saying, just bringing in some ideas about media production. So I wonder, maybe this is a question for Carlos too, you know, because you're sort of versed in organizing these things in an official way. But is there like like some way to continue this conversation, or a place people can go to maybe get involved with the music commission, and some kind of like, if people are interested in this, because the creative industries division is still starting, right? It's not established yet. And I think we would definitely put forward in the plan supporting this work, but it doesn't exist yet, whereas the music commission does, right? And all these other private companies do. So I'm just wondering, in your opinion, what the best structural way is for folks who are interested to keep working together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, structurally, I think, I'll be the first one to say that, I mean, the private sector is way more better at getting shit done.
So maybe that's the answer. Maybe
I
that's
mean,
the
it
answer.
is,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, because usually it means for you, if you don't do things right, your doors aren't gonna be open.
That's right.
And so sometimes in government, it's a little different, but I think like Buddy and I being part of the commission, we're also working musicians. So we know that, you know, we really know what it takes and where musicians need help. I think we've kind of structured the commission that way to where the goal is to help musicians as directly as possible get any money that we get as a commission into musicians' pockets without any red tape, middleman, bureaucracy. That's my goal.
And Carlos, can I be the first one? We haven't announced this yet through the music commission, but we're partnering up with the Grammys. And we're gonna be doing, any New Mexico student that gets accepted to Grammy Camp, we're gonna have a New Mexico Music Commission scholarship for them to go to this Grammy Camp. We're also gonna have a link to Grammy U, which is, for university age students to be involved with the Grammys. And we're working very closely with them to do some projects in the state that I think having that brand and that name branding with the music commission is going to be very good for the music industry. Yeah, in New Mexico. So that's coming in July. So we're very excited for that.
Cool. That's fun.
something
That's great news.
we, you know, purposely, we don't wanna be a production company.
Right.
That's what we do. We don't wanna be a venue. That's what this is. We wanna take the money the legislature gives us and get it into musicians' pockets, and we've been doing a good job because, like I said, you know, we work with organizations like Lensic 360, AMP Concerts, Sky Railway.
CHAVEZ Expo New Mexico.
Expo New
Yeah,
Mexico.
Yeah.
And it always boils down to like, thanks to the funding the commission gave them, we were able to bring in local bands, whether it was musicians in Taos or Taos Mesa Room, or musicians from Santa Fe and Santa Fe. And so, yeah, rather than us trying to reinvent the wheel or create another award, you know, another award show or another, you know, I mean, that Rebel does a way better job.
And we're here to subsidize that.
Yeah.
We're here to help
Right.
that. We want to subsidize. That's really what we
Right.
want to do.
Team commissioners would ever be able to do, because number
Right.
one, we're volunteers. And then number two, it just makes better sense to team up with organizations like that.
No, yeah, I'm really glad that you're saying that and sort of giving everybody, because yeah, I mean that's the deal basically, and that is going to be no matter how the EDD ends up executing it, you know, and the plan that we deliver for the EDD, like that's going to be the deal for this new creative industries division as well, is exactly like what Carlos is saying, is that and what's really important about talks like this is that in hearing this, it helps figure out how to define, like, okay, let's say there's a grant or some kind of program to help this. Hearing the way you guys talk about how you organically come together and work most productively, then we can define the grant for that, right? Instead of defining the grant for something obscure that has nothing to do with the way people really get stuff done, right? And so I think there's a few things like, A, yes, we can define it to the way that you work, but B, like Carlos is saying, and exactly like you're saying, Daniel, and everybody, Barney at the beginning, lifting all boats, right? If you all have to keep working together, and then you can demonstrate that, and then I think, in theory, the money will come, and Carlos and Buddy know more about this even, right, than I do, a lot more about this. Like demonstrating that collaboration supports the advocacy. And so I think that this idea of continuing to work together, and I guess, like, would you guys be okay with the folks if I shared the emails of everybody with the folks in the chat and whatnot? Cool.
Yeah.
So then if people want to keep staying involved, and yeah, I think it's awesome that you guys are having this idea to keep talking together, because yeah, government is always going to follow. It's never going to lead, and it's you guys who are going to lead, and then government is going to support the good ideas. And thanks to, yeah, you guys got some real cool champions on the Music Commission right now too. And I
I'll
think
be honest with
that's
you, I
super
didn't even
helpful.
know this existed, so this is great for me to know. And you did the comparison between the film and music, and the film industry is the only industry it's really a game changer for New Mexico. I'm really excited about what that means to New Mexico. And I've never understood why music couldn't do the same. I wonder why we just can't bring music up to the same level. Nashville, Austin, Albuquerque should fall right in line there. There's some great musicians, great bands, and they have to go to those other cities to get paid, and it's sad. And as a bar owner or a venue owner, we are reliant on ticket sales, so that conversation needs to keep going and to make sure that they're getting their fair share.
Yeah.
Because the bands, again, those two bands I mentioned, Bueno Fest and Blue Ventures, just pack the house. They pack the house. I don't know what magical dust that they got sprinkled on them, but they figured something out that they sure know how to make a living.
It's all the radiation from the bombs.
Yeah, something like that. But again, I'm going to share my card with everybody. Thank you so much. And I would love to even like make this a monthly conversation or something where we could all gather around again, maybe have it doesn't necessarily need to be publicized, but it's something that we could definitely, I would especially like to know more about this music coalition and what you guys are working on, because I think it's really fascinating that you guys are doing something like that.
No, I mean, that sounds great to me. And I also, in closing, want to say that it's really cool that everybody around the table was so adamant about money going back to New Mexicans, and this being like by New Mexicans and for New Mexicans. And I think that, like, there's your community buy-in right there, like that is like the place to start. And so I think it's awesome if you guys keep talking together. Please keep talking together, and please don't fizzle on this,
Cool. Yeah, let's link it up in the email and keep it going, and then we can meet up again. I like that idea.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great show. Have a great night. Great to meet you all.
All right,
we're
thank
gonna
you so much,
stay in touch and share this out with everybody. And yeah, and then hopefully we'll keep building from here.
Cool.
Thank you, man.
All right,
Awesome.
thank you very
Good
much.
to meet you all. Take care.
You too.
Bye.